each golfer has to have their own toolbox to understand their own swing, how to change their speed, their path, their face, and their impact point for that given golfer. And if they don't have that toolbox, they're going to struggle helping themselves when that instructor's not there. And if it's just in the instructor's head standing on the range tee, the only time they're ever going to hit it pure is when they're standing in front of them. But they need to ask the pro for a little bit of a toolbox to help self-diagnose once the ball's doing something they don't want it to do.
Golf Smarter number 740. Stay tuned to hear your name called as the winner of a new custom-fit Knuth Golf Hybrid and Golf Cradle right after the interview. The 4 Laws of Golf. Everything else is optional with James Leitz. Featured at the Consistent Golf Summit.
This is Golf Smarter. Sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, James.
Oh, how you doing, Fred? Good to have you.
Yeah, good to be had.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you coming on. You're down in the New Orleans area, and you seem to be, I hate to say, you're experienced at crisis in golf.
Oh, well, yes.
Public safety and public health, and boy.
Well, I lived through Katrina 15 years ago. We were in the throngs of it. I was at Pinewood Country Club, and we had 1,100 trees down, and it was an experience I'll never forget. We had no employees come back. I had 3 kids in college, and I was the superintendent at the same time. And it was the most unbelievably long road back, totally different than what we're dealing with today. I mean, what today we're dealing with is definitely scary, what's going on. Yeah. But I tell people it's almost like Disney World compared to Katrina as far as what we're having to deal with on a daily basis. But this is very scary, what we're going through now. So it's a weird feeling, but I've felt that way before.
Yeah. This is not that Katrina didn't have long-term effects, and it was so obvious what was going on. And I can see why you'd think that the Disney type of image, how this isn't that tough, because you don't have the devastation in front of your face.
You don't see it, but there's a human life component that's very strong. Katrina had it. New Orleans in our area lost 2,000 people, and but this is different. And it's at least we saw what was in front of us. We saw trees, we saw devastation, we saw houses destroyed, and we lost 1/3 of our membership in one day. And we had to rebuild our membership. We had to rebuild our golf course. We had to rebuild our business. But the good news then versus now is the rest of the country was amazing what they did to help us. But now everybody's in the same boat. And
all over the world.
So, yes, the whole world. So that's what makes it so very different. But what we're having to deal with on a daily basis, we've been open the whole time, and doing every single precaution you can take with our golfers the whole time. But we've been extremely busy, and because we're not letting more than one person ride in a cart, and we're keeping everybody away from each other, but we've been actually busier than normal during this pandemic, because golf is one of the few outside activities that some places have allowed. It's about 60% of the golf courses in the United States have been open during the pandemic. So we're just lucky to be one of them.
Yes, you are lucky indeed. Do you... You said people are one person in a cart. Is it their own carts, or are you supplying
we do
carts?
have some. We supply in carts, but I'm telling you, you can eat off of our carts right now.
I bet
we are pressure washing them stem to stern and disinfecting them. And then in the morning, me and my assistant pull every cart out, and we're bleach watering every steering wheel and touch point on that golf cart before anybody even touches it. And then before it goes back out again, it goes through the same process. So I feel really good about the precautions we're taking, but you can never be 100% safe in any environment. Yeah. But we think that we're doing pretty well.
And please don't drink the bleach.
No.
Okay. It's It's truly outrageous, and there's nothing that we can compare it to ever, and we'll never forget this, and life will never be the same. It just won't. I mean, we talk about pre-9/11. Now we're going to talk about pre- and post-pandemic. It's just never going to be the same.
No, it's not, and I'm really concerned. Although the people who are open right now are experiencing extremely good play and so forth, but when everybody goes back to work, they're going to have to put the pieces of their life together. I know a lot about that post Katrina, and it doesn't come back at once. It's going to take a long time, and it's just going to be. You can't tell me that the fallout of this particular pandemic won't be at least as bad as the '08 crisis. So the '08 crisis kicked the golf business pretty hard, and it definitely did. There was a lot of golf courses lost within the next several years after the '08. And my concern is that we definitely, some of the clubs that were already struggling pre-pandemic are going to have trouble staying alive over the long run. So. But the other side is potentially, hey, the people that have been playing golf, we've had lots of people play golf that have not played a whole lot of golf. We've had men bring their wives out that hadn't played with them in 10 years. Hopefully that's a little bit of a rebirth for some people.
Yeah.
And that's my hope, is that we do that. And because golf will never, ever lose its lore. The big thing that we've dealt with in the golf business in the last 20 years is how much it's evolved from when I started to play golf in the 70s, when only dad worked and mom didn't. And, it was just a different world, and joining a country club was a really big thing. And now with, the two-income family, kids traveling sports is not only a strain on the financial, but the time of a family. And then here comes the weekend. Mom worked all week and dad did too, and so they've got to cut the grass, go to the store, bring little Joey and little Susie to their traveling competitions, and there's no time left for golf for the family. And that's what's really changed in the last 20 years to 30 years, and that's not going to change once these kids can start playing this sports and they start doing other activities with school and camps and so forth. Golf's going to be sitting around trying to compete for that again.
You've seen so much in this industry over the past nearly 4 decades that you've been doing this. So take all that experience and look into a crystal ball. What do you see as the upside to all this for golfers in the future?
It's an outdoor activity. Again, golf, the lore of it, of a person picking up a golf club and hitting a shot and seeing it fly, is just as powerful today as it was for me in 1972, the first time I ever realized that I made something go that far, and I've never looked back. That still exists today. The difference is kids are a little different, parents are a little different. Country clubs have had to definitely morph in the recreational side of the business and become, fitness clubs. Like here at Chifuncta, we have an excellent fitness club and an excellent pool and tennis, that's kept our members engaged on the activity side, because that's way bigger now than it was in 1982 when I got in the business.
Interesting. Well, I hate going over this so much, because it just is part of every conversation that you have now. Oh, man, it's so hard.
Well, it is, but I think, the love of the game's not going to go away. My concern is the business aspect of it for the young professionals who are in their 20s and early 30s just making a career out of this. It's totally different than in 1982 when I was 22 years old making a living at golf. Golf was doing great and would continue to grow all the way to September 11th. People don't realize that September 11th was a turning point in the golf business nationwide, not just in New York, but nationwide. That affected golf tremendously.
How so?
Well, to give you an idea, I'd been at my other club for 19 years, and my business grew 19 straight years. Every year my business grew. Every year my club's business that I was at grew. And then September 11th hit, and corporate America took such a jolt. New Orleans, where I'm from, lost 60% of their conventions in 2001. Wow. So all of a sudden, corporate America stopped traveling. the way they used to, and entertaining the way they used to, partly because they thought it was going to be an incredible, it was such an uncertain time. We thought we were going to see terrorism every month. I mean, of a magnitude, right? When it first hit. And then about 2 years later, when you started calling these corporate places and say, hey, you want to have your golf tournament today? We had the Sony golf tournament. And they go, well, nah, we're kind of moving in a different direction and we're not going to have a golf tournament anymore. Then all of a sudden your corporate business changed totally. Then on top of that, when they did change the tax laws to not deduct dues, that didn't help the golf industry. And then again, an interesting fact, in 1982 in the city I was in outside of New Orleans, in 1982 we had three golf courses, and the three golf courses had 800 people paying dues to belong to those three clubs. And at the time in 1982, we had 2 fitness clubs that had a total of 8,000 members. Well, fast forward to 2002, that 800 memberships at the 3 golf courses had dwindled down to 375. And by the way, the city almost doubled in size. And the fitness at 2 different fitness clubs was over 35,000. So the fitness overtook golf in the membership side, because what happened was the golfers realized that all of these private clubs were going semi-private to stay alive. Then they realized they could a la carte the business. So they were only playing once a month or so, and they didn't have to join anywhere to go play a good golf course. Not only that, some of the best golf courses being built were all semi-private golf courses, so they could go play whenever they wanted. So it changed because the wife's sitting back and going, hey, honey, you can't go play golf every Saturday like the old guy in 1970. You've got to stay home with me, and because, there's things for the kids to do, and I worked all week just like you worked. So there was a time crunch, and then the money was not even the big thing. There was a time crunch because Mom worked all week, Dad worked all week. Dad wasn't getting permission to go play golf anymore, to do it, go spend 6 hours at the golf course. And then he could go play a lot of good golf courses with his buddies once a month for a green fee. Whereas when I was growing up, you didn't play a golf course that was any good at all unless it was a private club. Now, all of a sudden, the best golf courses were semi-private. So it totally changed the business. The dynamic of the family changed. And then not only that, I had 5 sisters. I'm 60 years old. My sisters had nothing to do any organized sports except track and cheerleading. So there wasn't any organized sports for girls. Right. So you didn't have to chase the little, and then there was no traveling sports in 1970. So parents weren't, I played 6 football games and 12 basketball games and 12 baseball games and ran 3 track meets. There was my year. Now these kids are playing 75 baseball games and getting Tommy John surgery at 13 because everybody thinks their kid's going to be A-Rod. So you don't think that's affected golf? It's totally affected golf. So that's in a nutshell what happened to the golf business over the last 40 years. And, it's an a la carte sport for these 30-something-year-olds. They're going to the best public course they could find with their buddies who only get a 1 day a month to go play golf because they're chasing kids the other time and supporting the wife. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, life, how it's going now.
It's morphed.
Listen, when I grew up a little bit around the same time you did, but it was like we would spend all day playing ball at the park. We would just go to the schoolyard or the park and just play ball all day long. And no one had any scheduled activities for us.
No, they actually
at the park.
Absolutely, they actually chose all-star teams after the season instead of before, like now. Yeah. And you actually had to be an all-star to be on an all-star team. So again, you've got all this you got all this traveling sports, and I'm not knocking it because some kids come out with some great experiences, but when they get to high school, all of a sudden they can't even make their high school team, and they've been playing a certain sport for 7 years.
Yeah,
and so then that's when, but it's already golf has already passed their limit, and that's when they start getting interested in girls and driving, and so golf has kind of missed that, whereas it used to be when people didn't travel quite as much as a family. The country club was a perfect place for a kid to grow up.
Right.
I mean, you just dropped them off, and they brought their swim trunks and their golf clubs, and here we go. Yeah. So it's changed a tremendous amount, and golf has been slow to react. I mean, if I was building a golf course today, it would definitely be a community center, and that had a golf course. And so we again here at Chifunctor, I think we do a pretty good job of more done a good job. They've done a great job of morphing to the community. Our community is very important to this facility, and it's thrived pretty well.
Awesome. We're going to have more with James Leitz right after this. James, I'm really glad that we were able to get together because I was introduced to you by Bo Watson because you spoke and you were a major presenter at the Consistent Golf Summit.
Yes, I was. I've been very, very blessed to spread my knowledge amongst golfers and mostly golf teachers in my career. It's been a great run. And I've been asked to speak all over the world in my career, and as it comes to technology and teaching, and it's been very gratifying along the way.
Oh, it's great. And we encourage people, Consistent Golf Summit, even though you missed it, it's still available. You can go to consistentgolfsummit.com. Actually, don't even do that. I'll leave a link in our show notes so that I can get you, so they know that you came from Golf Smarter. You don't have to enter any codes or anything. They'll know that you came. But what was the focus of your conversation and your presentation on the Consistent Golf Summit?
Well, I guess what I'm best known for is technology and teaching. I've been very lucky. In my early career, there were a bunch of engineers in the city of my first golf course. And so they were pretty nuts and bolts kind of people. And I was given a lesson my first week, 22 years old out of college, didn't know what I was doing, but I was a really good player, so I thought I knew where I was good, which was incorrect. But this engineer, I'm giving him a lesson, and he says, well, why do you want me to do this? It was something at the top of his backswing. And I said, because I do it, which is the most stupid thing you can ever tell a student. And but I was 22 and didn't know any better.
Oh, no, wait a minute. When we're 22, we know everything.
Well, I thought I knew why I was good. In other words, I was a good golfer, not good enough to play the tour, but good enough to play Division I college golf. So he says, well, how do you know if I do it, James? And I said, Mr. Ray, his name was Ray Lacombe. And I said, Mr. Ray, I got my eyes. And he says, James, never guess what you can measure. And I said, okay, I get it. I kind of grew up a blue-collar kid. And I said, Mr. Ray, what do you mean by that? He says, well, if you measure a good occurrence and a poor occurrence, if you measure both of them, you can reconcile the difference. So in other words, why a good shot went good and a bad shot went bad. And I went, wow. So I went and bought a $2,800 video camera in 1982. I only made $9,000 a year. And that was my salary, was $9,000 a year, and I bought a $2,800 video camera. The only problem, I didn't know what to look at. It would be like giving a person an MRI machine and not knowing what the heck to look for. So I realized I had a lot of learning to do, and that started my life in technology to measure. In other words, to measure a swing that you hit good and bad with video, and then I realized you almost couldn't tell the difference. So I realized it was much more precise than that, than just video. Because you saw, this is back in the Miller Barber days and people like that who had all kinds of swings and were successful. And what I didn't realize then is what really my book that I eventually will write, the title of my book is My Road to 4/10,000ths of a Second. And what that means, the 4/10,000ths of a second is how long the club and the ball are together in a golf swing. When the club hits the ball's only on the face for 4/10,000ths of a second. So what happens during that collision means everything with why the ball goes where it goes. So that's where I started. And technology has led the way with me the entire time. But it wasn't until I understood what I consider the laws of golf that I became an effective teacher. And that wasn't until I was teaching probably 6 or 7 years. That's a long time to feel ineffective.
What technology are you favoring these days especially for people who are locked up at home? What kind of things do you think would be effective to help their game while they can't go out to a course and to practice?
Well, number one, the video camera just in your cell phone today is 100 times better than what I bought in 1982.
And no question, probably even more than 100 times.
Yes, but the question is, you got to know what to look for.
Right.
And so, when I give a golf lesson, I have all types of technologies going on at the same time. And video's a big component of it because that's the easiest thing to explain to somebody what they're doing and how they need to change. So I never put a tour player up on the screen when I'm giving a golf lesson. I always put that player up and I try to compare that player to themselves because that's really all that matters. And, so the video is a big part, knowing where to place the camera. Then you could put a couple lines on the screen that mean something if the camera's in the right place. If the camera's in the wrong place and you start drawing lines on the screen, you're going to be making more mistakes to help yourself than helping yourself. So that's a big part.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to take another quick time out, and then we'll come back, and you mentioned something that I want to pursue right after this. James, you just in passing, you kind of dropped something in. We were talking about technology a moment ago. You said something about learning about the laws of golf. What does that mean? And let's go deep.
Well, I tell people, whether I'm speaking in front of 500 golf pros that teach for a living or a student in front of me, that the only thing that tells the golf ball where to go is impact. Nothing else. The ball's just sitting there waiting for instructions. And the ball does exactly what impact told it to do. It's totally obedient. The ball is obedient. So if you want to change your ball flight, you have to change your impact conditions. That's simple. Now, it's not easy to do, but it's that simple to start understanding. If you don't know why the ball flies where it flies, going backwards from there to decide what you want to change in your swing to make your impact better. And that's where, luckily, through the PGA education, although there was a couple of things that weren't exactly right back then, but it was pretty good. I read The Golfing Machine back in my early days. I read the In Search for the Perfect Swing was another book I read that was really good back in the day. And I've only read about 3 books since in my whole life on golf, which is kind of crazy. You'd think I'd be a information maniac, but once I started getting measuring equipment, I didn't want to read a book that wasn't written by using measuring equipment. So because I realized that it was only what they thought was going on and not measuring what was actually going on. So my desire to read other stuff, people's stuff, really went away. That doesn't mean that stuff is not valid, but I was measuring in certain areas long before a lot of other people were. There were some people, and obviously all the biomechanical labs at universities were measuring biomechanical stuff for years, way before I got into it. Same thing with now with force plates and so forth. So those people knew a lot. They just didn't know why a golf ball went where it went and how to generate speed.
So you're a Homer Kelly fan, huh?
Well, once I got 3D in 2006, I never opened my yellow book again. Not because it wasn't valid. Number one, when I got 3D, I bought Titleist AMM 3D, which was an incredible product. It had 12 wires coming off of you going into a computer, and it could measure in 3D space how your body moved, how much your arm bent and straightened, and how much your hips turned and tilted, and your shoulders turning and tilting, and your legs flexing and straightening, and all these different measurements, the supination rate of your left forearm and all kinds of stuff. And it's like I was measuring all this stuff. And when I bought the equipment, I had 1,000 questions. And after I had it a month, I had 2,000 questions because there was nobody to answer them. But I was finally measuring how the golfer was moving. And then Titleist had a great database of tour players, of what they were doing. So at least you had an idea what they were doing. You don't make everybody swing like a tour player, but there is a reason they're pretty good. And, later, after 3D, that's when I finally got my TrackMan, in 2007, I was one of the first people to buy TrackMan and teach with it. And that's really where my whole world exploded, is when, in a way, I was using what I call a crude TrackMan before TrackMan was invented. I was using a vector launch monitor, a Golf Tech swing analyzer, which was a little black box on the ground that had a light above it, and then video at the same time. So I was measuring almost everything that you can measure with a TrackMan in 2001. So when TrackMan came along, I kind of knew what to look for. And then I had my 3D before I had my TrackMan. So all of a sudden, when I started realizing how the body moves differently, changed how the club moves. And it was a fascination, and I couldn't get enough of it, because if you slid your hips more, the club moved this way more. If you rotated faster earlier, the club did this. And if you're going to change how the ball flies, you got to change how the club's delivered. That's where the 3D came in, and the TrackMan, and then I knew it was magic then.
Wow. You have a severe case of technolust, huh?
Yes, because you know why? Because finally I didn't have to listen to folklore about this or that I was measuring. And for instance, one of the most inexpensive things you can ever do, the 4 laws are speed, path, face, and impact point. Those are the 4 laws. And last is impact point. And guess what? You can measure impact point with foot spray in the face of your club to see where the ball hits on the face. Right. So for $7, you can measure that law. Now the other 3, speed, path, and face, guess what? Those take a $27,000 TrackMan to measure accurately. So for $27,000, you can measure the first 3 laws, and for $7, you can measure the last. So, so to me, that's a cool spot.
But what about for us?
Well, I think that number one, you're getting more and more reasonable things in cost. Some of these inexpensive launch monitors at least can roughly measure club head speed, ball speed, and so forth. There's none of the inexpensive ones that can accurately measure path. None of those can measure face. So those are kind of important, path and face. You can't measure them unless you got a high-level launch monitor, or in my case, launch monitor and 3D. I have Gears 3D, which is I've got 8 cameras in the ceiling. It's a $40,000 motion capture device that actually measures the face of the club coming into the ball, so it can tell you if the face was open or closed, and the direction of the path, and the face's relationship to the path. So we all know if the face and the path match, the ball doesn't curve if it hits in the center of the face. But if the face is different than the direction the club is moving, the ball curves. So golf's a lot like ping pong. Believe it or not, you've got the direction the ping pong paddle's moving and the direction the ping pong paddle's facing. You've got the direction of force and the direction of face. And that's what makes the ping pong ball spin. So you create 2 vectors, the direction of the path, the direction of the face. Those 2 vectors intersect where the ball hits on the ping pong paddle. And those 2 vectors have a tilt to them. And that tilt is the spin axis of the ball. And that's what creates curvature. So it literally is that simple. You just got to know what yours are. It's like taking a blood test. Do I need more potassium, less potassium, more vitamin C, more this, more that? Less this, less that. You got to test. You got to measure. That's what we go to a doctor for. We don't all take hypervitamin C if we don't need it or shouldn't. Whatever we should be doing.
I'm in nearly 800 conversations that I've had with golf instructors on this podcast. You're the first person ever to compare golf and ping pong.
It's exactly the same thing. So think of this for a second. If the ping pong paddle is moving in the same direction that the ping pong paddle is facing, there's no spin. If the force and the face are in the exact same direction, there's no spin. And the more the force and the face differ, the more spin. If the angle of the face is different than the angle of the force, the more spin you get. both backspin, side spin, whatever direction it is. So the further the direction of force and the direction of the face are apart from each other, the more spin you get. That's called spin loft in golf. So if you got a driver that spins too much, your face and your path, your vertical path, are too far apart, or the impact point's bad. So there's a huge similarity to ping pong and golf. The only difference is the handle's a lot longer in golf. And you know what? The golf ball doesn't care whether that club head's being delivered by a right-hander or a left-hander. The face requirements and the path requirements and the impact point requirements are identical for right-handers and left-handers. It doesn't matter.
Interesting.
It's a flat surface you're hitting a golf ball with.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I don't know why no one's ever mentioned it, because it does make sense.
Yeah, so that's what spin is. And what it is, think about this. If you have ping pong, let's assume your ping pong paddle's moving straight down the middle of the table. That's the direction of its path, okay? But let's say the face of the ping pong paddle is pointing to the right edge of the table. That means the face is pointing different than the path. So the path is straight ahead, but the face is pointing to the right. So think of those two vectors, the path vector and the face vector. It's now tilted. Well, the golf ball spins perpendicular to that tilted axis of that plane that's created. That's what the D-plane is. Have you ever heard of the D-plane in golf? It's called descriptive plane. It's the direction of the path versus the direction of the face. So that's what makes a golf ball curve and spin. So if the path and the face match, the ball just spins and rises up a vertical plane. But if the plane created is tilted, the ball rises up a tilted plane. So it's like watching a plane take off in a curved pattern. As it's rising, it's curving because it's tilted. It's on a tilted. If you realize, the wings are tilted on a plane when it's curving. So it's really rising up a tilted plane.
Fascinating.
It is cool.
Yeah, yeah. And so these four laws of golf: speed, path, face, impact point. Are there bylaws, or is like just ends there? It's you got to get that right or forget it.
Let me do no. You're going to get that right or forget it. And I'm going to quickly go through the adjustments in all four of them.
Okay.
Very simple. Speed is first. Speed is the easiest of the four for the golfer to repeat. So the speed can either be slower, the same, or faster. There's the three adjustments. Okay? Path is the direction of force of the golf club at impact. The direction of its movement in relation to the horizon and the target. So the club's only moving in one direction. Let's say it's moving down and left. The club at impact. Okay? If it's moving down and left, its force in relation to the horizon is down. Its force and direction in the direction of the club of the target is left, down and left. So angle of attack and path are really one thing. So it's the direction of force can either be left, straight, or right of the target, and then vertically its path could be down, level, or up. So there's the angle of attack and path is really one thing. That's the adjustments. Then the face is just the direction perpendicular to the face of the golf club when it hits the ball. That's the most simple. It could either be more lofted than the club's designed, this delivered loft of the club design, or de-lofted of the club design. There's its vertical face, and its horizontal face is what everybody thinks of. The face could be left of the hole, at the hole, or right of the hole, or the face could be left of the path, at the path, or right of the path. There's the face adjustments. And then impact point is where the ball hits on the face. So if the ball hits in the center of gravity of the club head, there's no twisting going on. And that is an infinitesimal size point, which means every ball hit off of that infinitesimal size point in the club head, the club twists. And if the club twists, there's what's called gear effect. So imagine there are gears on the face of the club and gears on the golf ball that mesh. So as the club is twisting, it's putting a side spin on the ball that the face to path should only be doing. So if a ball hits in the center of the face and not twist, then the face to path determines the curvature. But if the ball hits off of the center of face, the club twists. And when the club twists, it introduces spin different potentially than the face to path relationship. And if you understand how those work, for instance, a ball on the toe of the club will go more left of where it should have gone. A ball hitting the heel of the club, this is mostly with a driver or fairway wood, a ball in the heel will go more right of where it should have gone. A ball low in the face will start low and spin more. A ball high in the face will launch higher and spin less. So you've got all of those factors to consider when you're looking at a golf shot. And it sounds complicated to someone now, but I got people that have taken 4 golf lessons from me, and they understand them all. And so what I do is I give them feedback where their malady was, in other words, where their mistake was. And until I see a pattern, we don't make a change. So, for instance, if you hit a ball in the heel but only once, I don't tell you to change anything. But if you hit the ball in the heel every time, out of 5 shots or 4 out of 5, we're going to make a change. So you don't make a change unless you see a pattern. So that's what guides every golf lesson I give. So how the club hits the ball and what type of pattern am I seeing, then I start going in reverse. Do I change their grip, their stance, their ball position, their backswing, their top, their transition, their downswing intention? And that's when, and then after you get them in a good spot, then it's about motor skill. You have to go from, the problem with golf is we're teaching a motor skill. So like you know a lot about videography, and you could teach somebody to do that, but if there's a motor skill involved, that guy carrying that camera around on the NFL field, there's a motor skill involved so that thing don't shake and go all over the damn place, right? But then a guy sitting there on a tripod, he has to learn it's the same skills as the guy running around with the camera, only he doesn't have to have the dexterity to do it. And he could be an excellent photographer. So, but in golf, we're moving. So I'm not teaching people to pick stocks. They understand what I'm telling them. They're smart people standing in front of me getting a golf lesson. Tremendously smart. And I don't ever dummy it down because they're smart people. What's hard is the change of the physical motor pattern is what makes golf hard. From what you were doing to what you need to do is what's hard, not what we're actually asking you to do. I'm not asking you to jump over an 8-foot bar to have a club path that's good. It's just different than your club path normally is. Does that make sense?
Totally. I love it.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot more to it. It's fun, and it's every golfer needs to, when they're taking a golf lesson, they need to ask their golf professional when they give them a change in their swing. When they ask them why, the golf professional should be able to bring it back to their impact, because I'm going to change your grip because it's going to change your impact. I'm going to change your stance, your posture, your take back or whatever because it's going to change your impact. And then they have to be able to tie it into how. Now, let me explain a couple other things that are really cool. Number one, every new student I have, first thing I tell them is golf is mean. It's the meanest thing in the world. Number two, golf is terrible at partial credit. So golf is like math. If you have a 10-step math problem and you got 5 steps wrong, we have the wrong answer, don't we?
Yeah.
What if I fix one of the wrong steps? What do we have?
Still
the wrong answer.
Wrong answer. Yeah.
What if we fix 2 of the wrong steps? What do we have?
Wrong answer.
Welcome to golf. So we could be fixing things along the way that you don't get paid for. So golfers, they might get a good tip and they think that one tip alone is going to make them knock the paint off the flag. See, what they don't realize is that it's part of a segment of things, just like the math problem. When you get to the end and fix all 5 things, then you get paid. And you don't get paid until you get them all. And you don't get paid competitively until you get them all and can do them without conscious thought. if you've got all kinds of problems and the last thing is the face to path relationship is wrong, until you fix that, the ball's not going to go where you want it to go. Or if it's the impact point that's wrong, or what it is that you're doing to change your path, whatever the teacher is telling you to do. So each golfer has to have their own toolbox to understand their own swing, how to change their speed, their path, their face, and their impact point for that given golfer. And if they don't have that toolbox, they're going to struggle helping themselves when that instructor's not there. And, if it's just in the instructor's head standing on the range tee, the only time they're ever going to hit it pure is when they're standing in front of them. But, they need to ask the pro for a little bit of a toolbox to help self-diagnose once the ball's doing something they don't want it to do.
Fascinating. Well, listen, James, that's pretty amazing stuff, and I just encourage people to come to golfsmarter.com or even check your show notes, because I'll leave a link for you to, if you want to hear more from James, then you can go to the Consistent Golf Summit and hear his presentation there. But this has been absolutely fascinating. I wish you all the luck in the world. Do you have a website? How can people get in touch with you if they want to get more from you individually?
Well, I'm at the beautiful Chafuncta Country Club in Covington, Louisiana. Our number is area code 985-892-1949. And my email, I have two of them. I have my club email, jleitz, Leitz, at Chafuncta Country Club or chafunctacc.com. That's JLEITZ at TCHEFUNCTACC.com, or lightsgolf@gmail is probably the easiest to not misspell. But I have a beautiful facility here that the club has provided. It's indoor to outdoor, so we're weatherproof. I have the best technology in the world in this building. We hit indoor to out, so it's a real life setting. Video, we use TrackMan that measures the ball, the club. We use Gears 3D, which is a full body 3D capture experience that's as high a level of 3D capture as any in the world. We use Kistler force plates, which are dual force plates. It's like having two $15,000 scales under your feet that determines how you use the ground when you swing. And trust me, the people that hit it far use the ground totally different than the people that don't. And there's some things that you could see with force that you cannot see on video. You can't even measure on 3D effectively. So it's an amazing piece of equipment that we use. Plus we use Capto for putting and all kinds of other things within our group of technology. Also, too, I'm proud to say that I'm the only top 100 club fitter and top 50 teacher in the world. So on the club fitting side, I'm very blessed there that I have some of the best equipment to fit clubs at a high level using the other technologies. That's where the gears and the TrackMan and the force plates, along with club fitting, is an incredibly different science at a different level than most places. And so it's been a fun journey. I mean, I still learn every day. I still enjoy listening to other people talk about what they think about the golf swing and compare it to my notes. And I'm in a great spot to do it, and very blessed to be able to do it. I just want everyone to be healthy, everyone to be safe, and let's come back from this strong and just love and support each other. I think that's what's important to me.
It's important to all of us. That was really nice. Hey, remember we talked about the Consistent Golf Summit on episode 735 a few weeks back with Bo Watson? Well, James was one of the featured instructors over the 3 days. And if you liked what he had to say in this episode and want more, then check your show notes or the blog post at golfsmarter.com about today's episode so that you can retrieve the link to the summit and purchase the entire package of 3 days of instruction from 20 world-class instructors, including all the video and bonus materials that goes with it. And as we move forward, I will continue to feature some of those great instructors right here on the Golf Smarter podcast. Okay, it's time to announce the winner of a brand new custom-fit Knuth Golf 257 Plus Hybrid with Turf Glider Sole technology to get the ball in the air faster, and it will go straighter. And you know what? I can testify to that because I just pulled out my Callaway 3 Hybrid and replaced it with the Knuth Golf Hybrid, and I'm really happy I did. You might want to check that out. Well, anyway, I was so excited when this name was selected at random because I know that this person has been a Golf Smarter listener and a Golf Smarter ambassador for a long time. Truly a golf martyr. Congratulations go down to Tallahassee, Florida, where our winner, Pam Johnson, lives and plays regularly. Pam, I'll send you an email and copy both the generous folks at Knuth Golf and Golf Cradle for you to arrange to get your prizes. Congratulations again, Pam, and thank you so much for your continued support. Now, if you didn't win, I'm sorry. There's still more chances to win things, and we'll be giving away more hybrids throughout the year. But you should be aware that you get 25% off any purchase that you make of a hybrid, a fairway metal, or driver from our old friend Dean Knuth, founder of Knuth Golf, and his clubs that were previously discussed as High Heat Golf. But recently they revamped the brand and are now calling the company Knuth Golf, and the clubs are the 257 Plus. Also, if you want to pick up one of those golf cradles, I really like this one. Do I say that a lot? I'm sorry. But anyway, it keeps your clubs from banging around in the back of your trunk and sits them up instead of on top of each other when you're in the trunk. So use the word Golf Smarter, one word, all caps, at checkout, and you'll get $5 off at golfcradle.com. Now, our next giveaway is a prize that's perfect for all golfers. Yeah, we're doing these giveaways every 2 episodes now, right? All the way through the end of the year. Anyway, this is perfect for any golfer. No matter what clubs that you have or don't have in your bag, you'll get a dozen Eagle quality premium used golf balls of your choice. Any type of ball that you want from 2guyswithgolfballs.com. Winner will be announced on the episode of May 26th. So enter now at golfsmarter.com/giveaway 2020, or go to golfsmarter.com and just click on the banner at the top of the homepage. And good luck. Thank you so much for participating. Now, on Golf Smarter Mulligans, number 56, our old buddy Jim Waldron is going to be featured in an episode called Being Paralyzed by Too Many Swing Thoughts. Here's a taste.
A bad habit or a swing flaw that's habitual is just the absence of a positive fundamental. And since the subconscious mind cannot learn to not do something, it can only learn to do, it processes language only in positive terms. Hence the famous George Lakoff NLP term, whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant, right? Of course, you can't not think of a pink elephant. Sure. As soon as you see a pink elephant pop into your head, it's that kind of idea. So it's like saying, whatever you do, don't hit the ball out of bounds left. And what you actually see is the ball going out of bounds left when you tell yourself to do that on the tee marker. So then, of course, it goes out of bounds left, right?
Oh, yeah, we talk about that all the time here. Yeah. It's like, don't go in the water, don't go in the water. And what are the last 3 words you hear? Yeah. Go in the water, go in the water.
Well, that's the way your brain works. So you can't process, your brain, particularly your subconscious, cannot process negative commands. It can only process positive commands. So our whole instruction program is based on positive learning of what we call the laws of the golf swing, or the fundamentals of the golf swing.
That's Jim Waldron of BalancePointGolf.com for our sister podcast from the archives of 400-plus hours of Golf Smarter called Golf Smarter Mulligans, released each Friday. You can find it wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And a quick note about last week's episode with Josh Zander about keeping your stats to improve. If that's a topic that you want to know more about, then there are some really interesting conversations in older Golf Smarter episodes that you may want to investigate. Episode number 432, called Putting is Overrated, an Introduction to Golf Metrics, with Professor Mark Brody, whom Zach talked about. Episode number 514, our three-way conversation with LPGA Tour player Daniela Iacobelli and Get Real Golf Stats founder Josh Morris. And then episode number 665 on the Decade Golf app that removes emotion from your thought-making with Scott Fawcett, who has developed the whole Decade Golf app, which is a really good one. Thanks as always to listener Rick Petrick for reminding me that there's a lot of valuable insights on tracking your stats to isolate your weaknesses and to improve your game right here on the Golf Smarter podcast. Who knew? Think I remember these things? I really don't. Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at Golf Smarter. Read more about our weekly content on LinkedIn, or if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions you'd like to get to me, just click on the Hey Fred button when you come to golfsmarter.com.